Welcome back to another episode of Data Dialogues. Today's episode is called When AI Moves In. And I really love talking about AI. I think it's super interesting. And when you think about it, AI is still relatively new, but also at the same time, it's officially out of being the next best thing out there and kind of out of that really exciting novelty mode when everybody was trying to use it and figure it out. Today, like, marketers and influencers, creators, basically everyone is using AI to write emails, writing menus, planning vacations. It's like literally everything you can think of. It's moved into our homes when you think about it and has really become part of our daily routines. And once AI really crosses that front door, so to speak, things start to look very differently. And there are all sorts of new things to consider, not just where it can help in the household and with routines, but really how, there's different considerations to think of with AI, because AI is not just responding to us. When you think about it, it's actually observing us, and it's observing how life actually happens. And in that process, it's generating a lot of data. So that's cool, scary, freaky, all at the same time. So on that note, we're talking about what really changes when AI lives where life happens. And my name is Larisa Bedgood. I am head of marketing here at PGM, and I am joined by Kym Vance, our head of business development. So hey, Kym, welcome back.
Hi, Larisa. It's so nice to be back.
Yeah, we always have so much fun doing these. All right, why don't you kick us off? What are your thoughts around this topic?
Sure. So AI is a hot topic, especially for us as a sales organization within Porch. It's a topic across Porch and all of its business units. AI is everywhere. It's on our phones, it's on our computers, it's in our business life, it's in our cars. You name it, you really can't get away from it. It's interesting, though, that as AI comes into our homes, it's a part of your everyday life. The Alexas came out years ago, and you could just talk to it and get any piece of information you want, play music, turn the volume up. The fact that it can control my entire house, just by talking into thin air is kind of a little bit fun and freaky at the same time. I have my own experiences and scary stories that go with it, but there's a lot of questions that are coming out, and organizations are looking to figure out where AI fits into the mix, and responsibly. And kind of like we were talking a little bit earlier, in a world where everything is technology, humans crave human interaction. And does AI create that? Does it support it? Does it strengthen it? Does it hurt it? Does it diminish it? So there are a lot of things for us to talk about. So, if we raise questions like, what information is my home producing to support me? What information is AI capturing and using to support me in life? And at what point does that insight and that information get a little too close for comfort or cross the line?
Yeah, those are fabulous points. I think that we're so excited about how helpful AI is. I know I turn to it so often just for tips and I just what have you, just think of what you do every day. It's like, hey, help me organize this list, alphabetize this list. Just thinking of some tasks I did today work wise. I had it find the last Wednesday of the month versus me looking in a calendar. I needed the last Wednesday of the month for some webinars I was doing for another company. So like all those little things just work wise. But there's also the human side not related to work, and AI helps us boost performance on the job, but it's also showing up in places that used to be, when you think about it, pretty private, like health. Think about your smartwatch and tracking steps and so forth, which is great. But there's other things that are really interesting. When we were doing some research on this episode, we're actually seeing smart mirrors that can assess stress or metabolic health in under a minute. There's also scales that I looked up online that can track dozens of biomarkers and tell your biological age. And this one is kind of crazy, but there's even AI smart toilets that can flag potential and medical issues. So it's not just, hey, alphabetize this list. It's pretty, it's part of our health and everyday habits. It's definitely not subtle at times.
It surprises me sometimes about how open people are to a lot of this. If you look, especially on social media, you can click through and answer a quiz to get your biological age. So, statistics show that 2/3 of people surveyed say, yeah, they'd pay to know their biological age. I don't want to know my biological age. But when I really think about it, I'm just going to say, when you think about your home and some of the things you're talking about, I'll give a little anecdotal example. I just recently put a Nest thermostat in, and it's an app on my phone, and I can see how our energy usage is running over the course of the week. And what got my attention was there were little icons, and one of them said, oh, you use more energy because you turned up the heat, which of course, when we were here in the Northeast, we're in the middle of the freeze and the blizzard. But then a couple of them said, the away insights function saved me on energy on other days. And I honestly did stop and say, how did it know I wasn't home? Is it that it's catching that we passed by if there's no movement? I mean, if I'm just sitting in the living room, is it going to think I'm not home? So, you start to question how some of the information is captured, and you talk about the mirror. I've been in a place where it does analyze your face and, it can tell you sun damage and things like that. And even now I laugh, I'm wearing my smartwatch. I'm using my smartwatch to track sleep patterns. And it is interesting that my watch knows that when I'm awake, when I'm sleeping, my heart rate, am I in REM sleep? Am I in core sleep? So there's a lot of information it's capturing. And while it's great that it's telling me things that I can do to be actionable, where else is that data going?
Right. Yeah.
Is part of it. So, so to the point is it's really, I'll use an old term, it's cool to have these insights and this information, and it helps you stay ahead of something or to be healthier or to help you make good decisions. And I think consumers look for that. In a world where we're overwhelmed, something that makes life a little bit easier is valuable because our time is precious. So yeah, you're right. It's not novelty anymore. It's becoming very quickly a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. That's a great point because, when you think of it that way, it's helping us feel more supported, and it's, helping us be healthier. It's helping us get better sleep habits. It's a support tool. So it doesn't feel invasive as, one might think. It's like, oh my goodness, you have a robot monitoring your sleep. Well, it doesn't, we just naturally accept it because no, this is a great tool that's helping me. It's one less thing now I have to track is my sleep. It's one less thing I have to manage. And we're all so busy. So, another great example is Aura. That's just a ring, but it's not, you forget you're wearing it, but it's doing all those things, we just mentioned. It's tracking sleep, stress, recovery, body
Mm-hmm.
temperature trends over time. And that is deeply, deeply personal health data that is being generated. And when you think of it, we work in the data industry, that's potentially data that can be used by brands. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that one. I love data. I love data. A lot of consumers think it's a little bit creepy, and it is. I like data though when it's used responsibly for brands to help me find better solutions to a problem, or if I'm doing some research, that data is being used to then show me things based on my browsing results. But when it comes to other things, like, yeah, it would be great to know that, to have recommendations, if I'm not sleeping well, to get some brand recommendations based on my sleep habits. But at the same time, like, weird that you're now using my personal data. It's very slippery slope.
You're right. And that's the key difference. Is the data anonymized? Is it tying PII back? It's you're not taking data from testing in an office or filling out a questionnaire, which I can't believe they still make us do. But it's your daily habits and information. But you're right, health information is extremely personal. It is protected, in with privacy laws. But it's interesting that consumers will try things and not think about that privacy at first. And it's not until something happens that all of a sudden it comes to the forefront. So
Right.
I'm glad that our industry does some self-regulation, and then that there are laws that, we are more than happy to comply with to protect that information so that consumers do feel more comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that the health area is certainly one situation where we're seeing AI. But of course, you think of all the cool things. I know you and I were at a trade show not too long ago, and this little robot running around the conference trade
Oh,
the
I
floor,
forgot about
and
him.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, that's pretty crazy. um, One of the things when you and I were looking into this episode and doing some of our research, we came across an example called Jenny from
Mm-hmm.
Tombot.
How about?
So
Mm-hmm.
that's, yeah. So, this is the idea of AI as a companion, and it's a robotic companion designed for people living with dementia. So very interesting use case. It actually exists because the founder had to make a pretty heartbreaking decision. His mother loved her dog, but for safety reasons, unfortunately, the dog had to be taken away. So the founder, it wasn't just about building a robot, it was about replacing or giving his mother comfort that had been lost. So using AI truly in the sense of a companion.
Well, and if you think about it, that's really the whole root of AI. As technology has become such a woven into the fabric of our society, loneliness became a problem. And from the movies to the stories and the books of people become isolated, and during the pandemic not being able to leave your house. I mean, if you had a family at home with you, that was great, but how many people were by themselves? So it's really where the backstory matters. It's not so much novelty or, oh, let's go find data. It's figuring out that where can AI and robotics and all these related technologies basically be emotional replacements for companionship. I mean, in the case of Tombot, I mean, it's great. It can give a family a peace of mind that there is a companion, there is some interaction. That particular robot can provide information to the family. So it's almost like it can see what's going on. So where we need help, especially where we've got this in-between generation who's caring for, children and parents at the same time. You just can't be everywhere at once. So having that kind of support, invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I thought that use case, it was super interesting. I've seen, of course, we've probably all seen the stories, AI girlfriends and boyfriends and other partners, but I thought this one was a really sweet use case, and very, something that made sense to me. Um,
Positive. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. And another area that has been around and continues to expand is AI. And when you think about it, AI, just in the case or the example that you shared about the thermostat, it is not just appearing in the home, it's already living in our homes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being used. I think you had talked about, was it Alexa that you had just mentioned? I can't remember which,
Yeah.
Alexa, Siri,
Mm-hmm.
but all of those are, the most obvious starting points that we're most familiar with. And they are almost kind of like a central nervous system of the household. We use it and talk to these voice assistants for virtually everything, answering questions, managing different smart devices within our homes, just coordinating so much. And that is, when you think about it, that has been around for some time. So it's not new, but yes, it is definitely producing data at the same time.
Right. And go even further than that. Go to security. The cameras and the sensors that we can have in our homes, and the reliance on using cameras from around the area to solve crime. It's, again, I mean, there's so many conversations about how far do you go, how much do you share, and there really has to be a conversation around greater good.
Yeah.
And again, what are those boundaries? So it really is, it's not just a story or a conversation about convenience, it's a conversation about trust.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to say that, because it is convenient, of course, but there's so much more that, when you use it for like the cameras and the security, that's such peace of mind. And that is giving us its trust. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think there's also a lot of those, again, those are a little bit more obvious, but there's a lot of systems that people kind of almost forget are, we can classify that as AI. Think of like robot vacuums. In essence, they are going around your house, mapping the home
Mhm.
and learning traffic patterns and adjusting how they clean based on how you actually live. There's even like entertainment, of course, fits into this. Smart TVs, streaming platforms, they're all learning our habits, recommending content, systems that adjust sound or lighting. And that type of data, yes, it's super convenient for us. But if you think of it from a brand's perspective, I'm not saying that this data is or is
Sure.
not out there. I'm not even sure. But when you think about it, like if you were just to think of a brand using and accessing that data, that gives you a whole lot of insight into people's routines, um, what they're doing inside their homes, and it's a whole new way of marketing that I don't think a lot of us are very comfortable at this point. I don't know, things may change, but really, comfortable with having those type of eyes inside our home.
Sure. Well, so here's a new one for me. I get a new washer and dryer. They have an app, and I can control both systems. It notifies me when it's done. It's able to tell me if there's a problem. And over the first 30 days that we use them, it gave me a report telling me these are the cycles you use the most. And based upon that, this is the type of detergent you should be using, or, what adjustments you can make. So I'm like, it knows how the heck I do my laundry. It better not know what I'm wearing. That's for sure.
Right.
You know? Um, so, so it's interesting that it's everywhere. Like never would have thought of that. You know, my kid's like, wait, I could start the washer while I'm at work. Yeah, you can, you know? So, or, or you can think about, I mean, I don't have one of these, but look at the Amazon Astro. It patrols your house. It checks doors and windows. It gives you remote reports. You know, on the surface, it's security. But if you really think about it, it's a new relationship with your home. Like when you leave, your home just isn't there anymore. It's like living and breathing and responding and reporting back to you. And, you know, it's like even the fact that I can travel and know from door locks and things, you know, when are the cleaning people arriving? When are they leaving? How long are they there? How many packages are on the front porch? I mean, I love when I get the alert. There is something that looks like a package, you know. So it's your house becomes alive.
Yeah.
Not just with the people in it.
Right. It's super interesting too because again, it's not like as a data company, we don't have this information, but we do talk about marketers should really be marketing to people, but also to their homes. The type of data, and I'd love for you to kind of expand on that a little bit more, Kym, but the type of data that we have might be square feet, or it might be the age of certain like plumbing or the condition of windows. Kym, you kind of live and breathe this data world every day. What are
Mhm.
some of the other types of data that we offer for brands to really market to a home?
Well, so probably one of the key ones that comes to mind is home factors, which is conditions and elements of the home, which really can tell you, is that home in market for certain products or services, or will it soon be? It may not be today, but it's coming soon. Um, I think too about, you know, what we know are consumers who are early adopters. What consumers embrace new technologies? What consumers uh, are looking for ways to make their lives easier? So that's something that PGM works into our marketing strategies. So it's not just about what's the ideal customer profile audience. It's about what's going on in these consumers' lives today that would make a product or service attractive at this time. Because, you know, the adage is, you know, right time. And this information is creating the ability to deliver relevant messaging when it's important. You know, so again, I'm just going to share another one of my favorite house ones, and I have to share it. Is so my insurance company provides a device that plugs in to an outlet nearest to my electrical panel, and it monitors the health of the wiring in your home. Probably one of the biggest fears any consumer will have is a fire.
Right.
And this reads the health of your wiring. So if it triggers that there is something wrong, so it tells you power outages, it tells you if there's brownouts, and was it isolated to you? Was it the community? Are you experiencing surges and things like that? It collects information over time, and if it identifies a potential challenge, they actually help contribute to the repairs that you learned from this system. So it reduces risk for the insurance company. It reduces risk for the consumer. It creates opportunities for the brands that support electrical health and services, and it's all cohesive. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's valuable. It's extremely valuable. So if you're looking to do or learn more about your audience with that type of information around what is the information the houses are sharing, you know, we do have some insights on those that we can use. Again, not PII or it's aggregated, it's anonymized. So it's general pieces of information that just can help strengthen your audience.
Yeah, that's great. I think that it really makes you then start to understand the home and the people that live in the home truly tell a story. And when you market to both the people and the home itself based on what the home is telling you, what the people like look like, their interests, their browsing behaviors, it really, really allows for some personalized and cohesive marketing that can just kind of move the needle for brands. Moving back a little bit to the AI story and just listening to some of the things you were just telling us about your washer and dryer, for example, and the monitoring the electrical panel, you start to realize that the home it's not just an object. It's something that we can really interact with, and it's interacting with us in turn. I think that there's another great example called Josh AI,
Mhm.
and this is not just something that you're just tapping buttons and opening apps. It's you can actually talk to your house like you talk to a person. It can control lighting, the climate and temperature, music, security, and your house responds. It doesn't even, there's another thing too. It doesn't stop there. Even pets are part of this now. So there's a AI gadget tool. I'm not sure what it is, but Furbo, it's called Furbo. It watches your dog. It alerts you if they're barking or pacing. So think if you're,
Mhm.
at work or out. It lets you then talk to your dog or pet through the app. And Furbo will then maybe it will toss little Fido a treat. So that's pretty interesting. And again, going back to the theme that we've been talking about, these may seem small, but each one of these is really pretty big and fulfills a need for us. It's about comfort, it's about security, it's about trust, reassurance, and just a general feeling of feeling connected, even when you're not at home. And when you step back and look at all of this together, what's striking isn't just those, isn't it's not any single device. It's the fact that they're all these systems are operating inside the same space, which is the home.
Right. And, as you step back, and while there are so many great features and solutions and problems that it's solving, this is where it gets a little heavier, because your home is your safe space and it's where you have your most privacy. But as the home increasingly becomes a data hub, as it's collecting this information to make your life easier, it also becomes a data source. So everything we're talking about, the smart devices, the wearables, the security systems, the appliances, everything's producing signals all the time. It's reading the patterns, it's reading the routines. So it's not just one person or one device, it's everything. Your home has become a, I'm not going to say living and breathing, but it's become an interactive element of your life. So, and it's really happening in the background. So it's not like, oh, we're sitting here and going, oh, this is doing this right now and this is doing that right now. You're not actually sitting there thinking about the fact that my house is generating data at an increasingly larger rate. It's just there. So, whether it's your electronics, your phone, what have you, they don't feel invasive while you're using them. But together they start to tell a very detailed story about your life and your home and how it works.
It's such a shift how homes have become a part of the data story, and we're definitely going to see a lot more happening on the realm. I think there's going to be a lot more concerns about data privacy in the future as people realize that this is such such a data source, many brands are going to be eager to get their hands on that. But of course, there's some real considerations. And I think it's important, we're, as a data company ourselves, we are very focused on the ethical use of data and being very diligent about how data is sourced. And we always recommend to others in the space, be careful about what type of data you are using and where it comes from, because you could be held liable if you're using data that is not ethically sourced, and it could come down on you. There's a lot of privacy considerations, and you just want to make sure that you're using data streams that protect consumers' rights. So I'd love to hear some of your closing thoughts, Kym, on what we've been talking about before we close out today's episode.
Sure. So it's, as we've discussed, there are so many benefits, to having the information and making life easier and more efficient and saving money, through insights and things like that. But as consumers, we should be aware that it's happening. And as marketers, it's about doing it responsibly, respectfully, compliantly. And at the end of the day, the advancements in technology, in our current world and what's to come, is about striking balance and using it to make lives easier without being invasive.
That is the perfect wrap up. Here. I wholeheartedly agree. This is going to be a very interesting space to watch in the coming months, the coming years, just how the whole data shift happens and what may or may not be used, and of course what fun new AI gadgets we may be adding to our routines.
True.
So on that note, thank you all for joining us again today on another episode of Data Dialogues. And with that, stay curious, stay data driven, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks all for joining us.